She left Tyrone for a disco in Donegal and walked into a borderland nightmare. Boom, vanished, no body, no closure. A 15-year-old girl out for a night of music and friends ends up becoming one of the most haunting missing person cases in Irish history. And the craziest part, the system basically gift wrapped the suspect a free pass. Alright, picture a small town where everyone knows everyone. That's Castledirk, County Tyrone. A place surrounded by green hills, narrow roads, and a border that feels more like an invisible fence than a political line. And living there, a 15-year-old girl named Arlene Arkinson. She wasn't famous, she wasn't rich, just a teenager trying to live her life in the mid-90s. Friends say she was chatty, warm, and a bit rebellious in that "I'm 15 and you can't tell me what to do" way. She'd already lived through a lot. Her mother passed away when she was 11 and her dad was battling alcoholism. So like many kids her age, she wanted a little freedom, a little fun, something to look forward to on a weekend. Now let's talk about Robert Howard, the man she was last seen with. Older, greasy energy and not the fun uncle type. This guy had a records, convicted sex offender. He was supposed to be on his best behavior, but apparently best meant driving teenage girls home from discos. And then there's the supporting cast. The police, or should I say two sets of them, because this whole story sits right on the line between Northern Ireland and the Republic. Different jurisdictions, different systems, different attitudes. Basically a nightmare for anyone trying to find a missing person and a dream come true for anyone trying to hide a crime. And finally, Arlene's family. Ordinary people who've had to become detectives, advocates, and survivors all at once. They didn't have power or connections or resources. Just hope and a question that's been echoing for 30 years. What really happened that night? It's 13th August 1994. The air in Tyrone is that sticky summer kind, not hot enough to be nice, just uncomfortable enough to make you want to dance somewhere dark with loud music. Arlene, 15, decides to go out with a group of friends. Destination? Bundoran, County Donegal, a seaside town just across the border, famous for its nightlife back then. If you lived anywhere near Tyrone, going to a Donegal disco was a rite of passage. It was freedom, flashing lights, and dodgy slow dances in a hall that smelled like hairspray and sweat. Arlene borrows some clothes, gets ready, tells her sister she's heading out, and hops into a car heading south. Nothing about it screams danger. No one thought this would be the last night anyone saw her alive. Now here's where the story starts twisting. The man offering her a lift home later that night, Robert Howard. Yep, that same guy already out on bail for serious sexual offenses. He was like a walking red flag factory, but still somehow nobody stopped him. In the early hours of 14th August, Arlene and Howard are seen leaving Bundoran together. Witnesses say she seemed quiet, maybe tired. The car crosses back over the border toward Northern Ireland and then she disappears. No calls, no sightings, no trace. What's wild is that Arlene's friends assumed she got home safely. By the time anyone realized she hadn't, hours had turned into days. Howard's story? He claims he dropped her off in Tyrone safe and sound. But the timing doesn't fit. His alibi doesn't fit. And honestly, his whole face doesn't fit. He looks like the kind of guy you'd see in a true crime mugshot bingo card. Still, for the police at that time, this was just a missing teenager. Not an abduction, not a murder. Just a girl who, in their words, probably ran off. That one assumption, that lazy, dismissive idea was the first domino. Once it fell, every mistake that followed felt almost inevitable. So after that night, Arlene doesn't come home. Her family waits, thinking maybe she stayed with a friend, maybe she missed a ride. But by the next morning, nothing. No calls, no word, no sign of her. They go to the police, panicked. And here's where the first red flag waves itself. The officers treat it like a missing teen situation, not a possible crime. No urgency, no media push, no forensics, just a shrug and a clipboard. The police ombudsman later said investigators should have arrested Robert Howard within 48 hours of her vanishing. They had the evidence, they had witness statements, but instead they waited 46 days. Yeah, 46 days. That's enough time to lose every scrap of evidence, every trace, every chance to catch him. And get this, they didn't even search Arlene's house in those first crucial hours. Not her clothes, not her room, not even a basic check for clues. Imagine your daughter goes missing and the police say, "We'll get around to it." While they were sitting on their hands, Howard was out there cleaning his car, throwing things away, maybe hiding evidence. We'll never know, because by the time they finally acted, any physical trace was long gone. The case files show investigators downplayed every warning sign. They wrote off early reports that Howard had been acting strange. They didn't coordinate properly with the guards across the border, either, meaning half the information stayed trapped on one side. It's like trying to solve a puzzle when the other half is literally in another country. And the saddest part, every delay, every hesitation, every missed opportunity, it wasn't just incompetence. It was that deadly cocktail of bureaucracy, arrogance, and good old-fashioned, she probably just ran off. By the time they realized Arlene wasn't coming back, the trail was cold, and Robert Howard had already built himself a nice, neat wall of doubt. Years pass, leads dry up. And then, finally, in 2002, Robert Howard is charged with Arlene's murder. You'd think, finally, some movement, finally, justice. Yet no, hold that thought. The case crawls into court in 2005, and it's a disaster from day one. The prosecution has no body, no weapon, and no physical evidence strong enough to nail him down. All they have is the last sighting witnesses and a creepy man with a past. But here's the kicker, the jury is not told about that past. They never get to hear that Howard had already been convicted for kidnapping and murdering another young girl, Hannah Williams, in England. That's not a minor detail. That's the whole picture. But under the law, the judge ruled it would be prejudicial to mention it, so the jury gets a sanitized version of the truth and Howard walks free. When the verdict came in, not guilty, Arlene's family was shattered. They'd waited over a decade for this, only to see the man they believed killed her walk out of court smirking. Meanwhile, Howard kept his secrets. He died in prison in 2015, serving time for other crimes, never once admitting what he did to Arlene. But wait, fast forward to 2021. After years of pressure, a coroner's inquest finally takes place. The inquest digs through the evidence again, interviews witnesses, and lays it all bare. Their conclusion? Robert Howard was responsible for Arlene Arkinson's death. Not a maybe, not a possibly. Straight up, he did it. But since he's dead, there's no new trial. Legally, it changes nothing. Morally, it changes everything. And just when you think that's the end, another twist lands. During the inquest, whispers surface that Howard might have been some kind of state agent or informant. Meaning, maybe that's why the investigation moved so slow. Maybe that's why certain leads were ignored. If that's true, it's not just one man's crime, it's a cover-up that stretches across the border itself. So yeah, he escaped justice in life and maybe got a little help doing it. Here's the thing about the Ireland-Northern Ireland border, it's not just a line on a map. It's a maze of paperwork, politics, and invisible walls that can swallow a case whole. Arlene's disappearance didn't happen in one country. She vanished between two. That means two police forces, the police service of Northern Ireland on one side and the guards on the other. Different rules, different priorities, different databases. So when Arlene went missing, half the information sat stuck in Tyrone, the other half in Donegal, and no one connected the dots fast enough. Back in the 90s, the border was still haunted by the troubles, checkpoints, fear, and a general mind-your-own-business attitude. Cross-border cooperation wasn't smooth. It was cautious, bureaucratic, and slow. Every request had to go through layers of approval, every search had to be cleared, and every delay helped one man, Robert Howard. Think about it. One side says she probably ran away. The other side says it's outside our jurisdiction. And somewhere between those two sentences, a 15-year-old girl disappears from history. Add to that the geography, this isn't downtown Dublin or Belfast. It's bogs, forests, winding roads, and empty fields. If someone wanted to hide a body here, they could. And the border made sure no single authority had full control over where to look. For families like Arlene's, that border isn't just political. It's emotional, it's the wall that's kept them from finding her for 30 years. It's the invisible divide between truth and denial, between we're still looking and we gave up long ago. In short, the border didn't just complicate the search, it enabled the failure. Every mile of that border hides 100 unanswered questions. And Arlene's case is one of the darkest reminders of what can happen when no one takes ownership of a missing girl's fate. If there's one thing this story proves, it's that time doesn't heal, it just hardens. Arlene's family has been fighting this battle for 3 decades, and it's been pure heartbreak on loop. Her father, Archie Arkinson, went to his grave without ever finding out where his daughter was. He spent years driving the same back roads, stopping at rivers and fields, asking locals if they'd seen anything. He once said he didn't want revenge, he just wanted a grave to visit. That's the kind of pain that doesn't fade, it just lingers like fog over the hills. Her siblings picked up the fight. They pushed for answers, wrote letters, met politicians, and demanded accountability. They've been to every inquest, every press conference, every dead end. And through it all, the authorities kept giving them the same polite nonsense. We're doing our best. Except their best apparently meant waiting decades to call a public inquest. Even today, searches still happen. In May 2024, the guards searched an area in Castlefin, County Donegal after a new lead came in. Another field, another dig, another heartbreak when nothing turned up. Locals said it felt like watching the same tragedy replay again, hope rising, hope crushed. Then in August 2024, the community held a vigil in Castledurg. Candles, photos, prayers, and that familiar quiet rage. One of her sisters stood there and said, "Someone knows. Someone always knows." And that line just hits. Because after 30 years, someone out there probably still does. And here's the part that really stings. In mid-2024, Northern Ireland's Justice Minister refused to order a public inquiry into how the case was handled. The official statement said there weren't sufficient grounds. Translation: we don't want to reopen old wounds. But for Arlene's family, those wounds never closed. They're still waiting for the one thing every family deserves answers. Not headlines, not sympathy, just the truth. Every search that fails, every official who shrugs, every year that passes, it's another silent reminder that justice for some people has an expiration date. So here's where we're left. A 15-year-old girl leaves home for one night of music, laughter, and normal teenage life, and never makes it back. The man last seen with her, Robert Howard, goes on trial, walks free, and dies behind bars for other crimes. He never admits anything. He takes whatever truth he had straight to his grave. The coroner's inquest in 2021 says it clearly. Howard killed Arlene. But it's too late. He's dead. And without a body, the law can't even close the book. 30 years later, her family still has no grave, no closure, and no apology. They've buried hope more times than most people bury flowers. And that border, that invisible line that splits Ireland in two, still feels like part of the crime scene. Because it didn't just divide land. It divided the investigation. It divided responsibility. And maybe, just maybe, it divided truth from justice. Some people think Howard got help, that he might have been some kind of protected informant, a man the system didn't want to touch. If that's true, then what else got buried along with Arlene? How much evidence, how many files, how many secrets went into the ground too? That's the haunting part. We know who did it, but we still don't know where she is. And the man who could have told us is long gone, smirking from whatever dark corner of hell he's in. So, in the end, the case of Arlene Arkinson isn't just a story about one missing girl. It's a story about a system that couldn't or wouldn't protect her. A case that slipped through cracks so wide it swallowed an entire family's peace. 30 years. No body. No closure. Just silence and a border that still hides her truth.